Does cold weather affect arthritis? The answer to that is that cold weather does affect arthritis. It's not a wives' tale. And in the rest of this video, I'll explain to you why cold weather affects arthritis, as well as what you can do to keep your arthritis from hurting so badly this winter. Now, if you find this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. We help people to stay active, mobile, and healthy without relying on pain medications, injections, or surgeries. So why does cold weather affect arthritis pain? Well, that's largely because your body has receptors that are responsive to all sorts of things in your environment. And to understand how cold weather affects arthritis, you really need to understand a little bit more about what arthritis is and the physiology of arthritis. So hang in there while I explain this, because it becomes really relevant as to how the cold weather affects your arthritis, as well as what you can do to become more comfortable. So arthritis really isn't just one thing. There are many different types of arthritis. And I'm not just talking about osteoarthritis versus rheumatoid arthritis. Osteoarthritis is the kind of just getting older type of arthritis, whereas rheumatoid arthritis is a little bit more of a inherited pathological condition. A lot of autoimmune things tend to go along with that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but actually osteoarthritis, there are several very different variations of osteoarthritis as well. In fact, a 2016 article identified 6 different types of osteoarthritis. They refer to that as phenotypes. And what that means is your genotype is basically your genetics, how you're made up. The phenotype is how things are expressed. So like everybody has eyes, but some people have brown eyes, some people have blue eyes, some people have green eyes, and that's the phenotype. So arthritis is actually that same way, is that it's expressed in a lot of different ways, and there are different factors that affect it. And so the 6 different types of arthritis that were identified in this study were a chronic pain type that had a lot of central sensitization or sensitization of the nervous system. There was a primary inflammatory type of arthritis. There was a joint malalignment type of arthritis. There is a metabolic syndrome type of arthritis having to do with obesity and diabetes. There's a metabolism type of arthritis having to do with the actual metabolism of the joint and the cartilage. And then there's actually a type of arthritis where there's very minimal joint changes at all. And I tend to think that that type of arthritis is a little bit more of pain that's caused by other things, and there just happens to also be some mild arthritis on the x-rays, but most of the time I think that's usually caused by other things such as muscles or trigger points or ligament problems, things that may not necessarily be amenable to your typical joint type treatments. Now, I know that's a lot, and it kind of got a little bit confusing, but it's a lot easier to think of it in 3 different things, and those 6 different models are just variations of the 3 different things that affect it. So to think about that, I'm going to put a Venn diagram up here on screen that shows kind of an adapted version from a study that showed the same diagram, but these words are a little bit more accessible to the lay public. And that's what we want to do, is help explain things, not in medical terms, but in the way that you can understand it if you're dealing with arthritis. And so the 3 factors are the joint structure, or the anatomy, and that's the thing that people typically think of as really truly a lot of times the only component of arthritis. That's certainly the way that surgeons look at it. They look at your x-ray, they say you're bone on bone, and so you need a knee joint replacement. But there are 2 other variables that affect how much arthritis pain you actually feel or how much you experience, and those can also help kind of predict who's going to do well with a knee replacement, as well as some of the people who may not do so well. So there's 2 other forms of things that affect how much arthritis type pain that you're going to experience are the functional factors, or the physiological factors, and that has to do with how sensitive your nerves are, some of your endocrine system, like if you have diabetes. Those can affect the way that your body feels and experiences pain. And then there are also psychological components, things like anxiety and depression, the belief that either pain will get better or won't get better, catastrophizing or always looking at the worst case scenario. Those are things that also affect your pain. And surprisingly, the things that predict the most pain or the most recurrent pain at 1 year and 5 years after a knee replacement have nothing to do with how bad your arthritis was, what your range of motion was, how overweight you are, or even if you have diabetes. They're actually those psychological variables. Anxiety and depression were the number 1 and number 2 predictors of persistent pain 1 and 5 years after a knee replacement. And so conversely, people who felt like they were going to get complete pain relief after the knee replacement, people who went into it with an attitude that this is really going to help me, they tended to actually do a lot better. So there is a little bit of actually placebo effect that goes on with a knee replacement. And that's certainly not the only thing. That people who do have a very mechanical type of arthritis where the structure is the big thing affecting the problem, they do very well with knee replacement. But the people who have high anxiety or high depression, or who may catastrophize or predict that, oh, this is going to be absolutely horrible, or maybe they had a past experience with pain where a family member or a friend that they were close to had a horrible knee replacement, they're probably not going to do quite as well after a knee replacement. Now you may wonder, how does all of this affect how arthritis is affected by cold? And that has to do a lot more with those physiological factors and also to some extent the psychological factors. But in regards to the physiological factors, like I mentioned, you have a lot of different types of receptors in your joints. They can pick up on changes in your environment, changes in barometric pressure when it gets colder, or changes in temperature. If you think back before we lived in warm, cozy houses where we had thermostats that we could regulate the heat, when there was a pressure change or when there was a temperature change, your body had to pick up on those physiological signals and sense that there's some type of danger. And so those signals, they make your nerves more sensitive, and your nerves pick up on that, and they need some way of telling you, hey, there's some change going on in your environment. And so a lot of times that will be manifested in wherever you normally experience danger signals or pain. And a lot of people with knee arthritis, they'll feel it in their knees, or if you have arthritis in your spine, you may feel it in your spine. People who suffer from migraines, they also tend to get migraine headaches when there's changes in weather patterns or fronts coming through, because it's just your body's way of expressing that, hey, something's happening here that you should pay attention to. Now, I think cognitively, most people know that just because it's getting colder doesn't mean that your joint is degenerating more, but it's the nerves that are picking up on signals from your environment and figuring out, what do I need to do? And that's really what triggers a painful response. So given that pain from colder weather when you have arthritis is triggered more by neurological responses, you need to target things that affect those, not necessarily things that target the joints, like more anti-inflammatory medications or things like that. So if cold is the big trigger, the biggest thing that you can do to help relieve knee arthritis pain when it gets cold is just to stay warm. Dress in layers, turn the thermostat up a little bit, take a hot bath or a hot shower, use an electric blanket or a knee sleeve. They even make electric knee sleeves that you can put on, and it has a heating unit inside the actual brace, so it helps keep your knee warm. Whatever you need to do to keep that signal of cold, that environmental trigger of, hey, there's a cold front coming and you need to go take shelter. If you shut off the stimulus, a lot of times you can shut off the response. So heat doesn't necessarily heal arthritis, but it is very good for helping to control the pain, especially in the wintertime. Now, the next thing is movement. That when you move, your joints release a lubricating fluid that helps keep your joints moving freely. Now, in the winter, we tend not to move around as much. It's colder. We don't like to go outside and exercise. But staying active just in your house, making a few more trips up and down the stairs, or moving your legs around as you're sitting, or riding an exercise bike, walking on a treadmill, going to a gym, going to the mall and shopping. Any way that you can get some activity in is going to help lubricate your joints. When you exercise, it also releases endogenous opioids, or opioid-like chemicals. They're sometimes referred to as endorphins. And when you do aerobic type exercises, it releases chemicals into your blood that are good pain controllers. And so moving around regularly when it's cold outside not only stimulates increased blood flow, which means more heat getting to your joints, increased cartilage lubrication, but it also releases pain relieving substances or chemicals. Now, another thing that's really important is eating right. You can actually get inflammation that's generated by your nerves when they predict that there's some danger. You can get inflammatory chemicals that actually come out of your nerves. And so some things that you can do to control inflammation are making sure you eat a clean diet, avoiding foods that are inflammatory, like foods that are really high in sugars or saturated fats, getting enough omega-3 fatty acids, which are really helpful for your joints. Additionally, you want to get enough good quality sleep. That sleep helps restore and reset your nervous system. It's also the time when physically your joints repair themselves. And so making sure you follow good sleep hygiene, that you keep your bedroom dark, that you have a consistent bedtime, you avoid being on phones or computer screens right before bedtime, that you have a consistent sleep time and a consistent wake time so your body kind of gets in a natural circadian rhythm where it knows when it's bedtime and it knows when it's time to get up without using an alarm, ideally. Those are some good habits that you can use to help get better sleep. And when you do sleep better, your joints have more time to restore themselves, and your nerves also kind of reset, that your nervous system goes through a reset during that time period. There are actually some supplements that can help control inflammation in your joints. There is one that I'm a fan of. It's called Joint Restore. They're knee gummies, and they consist of boswellia or frankincense, which helps control inflammation. They also have CBD, or they're made from hemp products, which it helps control some of that other neurophysiological sensitivity. It helps you stress less, so it controls some of the anxiety. It helps you sleep better, so it makes your nerves less sensitive. And so for that reason, it controls kind of all three of those domains. It controls the inflammation, it helps you sleep better, and it helps you stress less. And so that's a reason that I am a fan of it. I don't love the sales page. I will put a link here, but it's a big, long salesy thing. Just kind of ignore that. And if you want to try it, I think it is a supplement that's worthwhile for helping to control the pain you have from your knee arthritis. Another thing that's important is getting enough vitamin D. That in the winter, we don't go outside as much, we don't get as much sun exposure, and so our bodies don't naturally produce as much vitamin D. And that's also really important for people who have rheumatoid arthritis. And like I mentioned, rheumatoid arthritis is more of an inflammatory type of arthritis. It does have some autoimmune linkages, and vitamin D deficiency can really trigger people who have rheumatoid arthritis. So getting enough vitamin D through fortified foods in your diet, like milk products or fortified bread or cereal products, or taking a supplement, are good things that can help if you have rheumatoid arthritis and you're not getting a whole lot of sunlight. So those are a few tips that you can use to relieve knee arthritis pain this winter. And just to review, those are staying warm, exercising or moving often, eating right, getting enough good quality sleep, and taking supplements where necessary. Now, if you do need more help for knee arthritis, we've got a guide on the page for this video. And additionally, if you would like some one-on-one help and you happen to be in the St. Louis area, give us a call at More for Life and we'd be happy to help you out on a one-on-one basis. And if you're watching this from somewhere else, but you did find some of these tips helpful, give the video a like, comment on what you found helpful, and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and have a great day.